Can one trust their own social media feed as a way to make informed decisions? If you're interested in an answer, then stay with me and we'll see this today. A few days ago, I read a very interesting article in Nature.com. It's about information gerrymandering in social networks and collective decision making. This article is about a paper that was written by Alexander J. Stewart. He's a professor in the Department of Biology and Biochemistry in the University of Houston, Texas. And this article is more of a jumping point to discuss how a writer can take feedback from their own social media feed and how reliable this is. We won't discuss much about the article because it's about a totally different subject. It's about voting and how the information presented in social media can influence voting. Since I haven't read the paper, I won't comment too much on it. I'll keep 2 points in this article though, this paragraph over here, as well as these diagrams. Let's start with this paragraph. The internet has erased geographical barriers and allowed people across the globe to interact in real time around their common interests. That's a given, that's very interesting. That means that you can actually find people outside of your small secluded area, outside of your immediate environment, and interact with them, and you may find people with common interests. That means that it creates what we used to call as vertical markets, and that means that we have some groups based around narrow interests that we can interact with thanks to the internet. But let's get to the important part, the juicy part. But social media is starting to compete with, or even replace, print and broadcast media. We know that. I mean, how many of us just learn the news from Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube? And what's very important is this part. With ad libitum, personalized discourse on virtual social networks. I'm not sure what ad libitum means. I'm sorry about that. Let's see what this means. Yes, it's personalized, it's based on your own desires. You get what you ask for. That's very important because, and very relevant to our conversation because, as the next sentence says, instead of broadening their spheres of association, people gravitate towards interactions with ideologically aligned content and similarly minded individuals. So, in this example of a social medium, we'll use a hypothetical social medium about books and readers that is called Bookface. It works exactly like Facebook. All day you scroll down and see posts about books. Instead of, posts by colleagues, relatives, old schoolmates, and people you don't care about. Let's go on. Portions of a social network can thus turn into filter bubbles, in which individuals see all in That's very important. Algorithmically curated. Also, filter bubbles. So, if you're on Bookface, and you're interested in interacting with sci-fi fans, you have a lot of friends who are into sci-fi, and you consistently press like on sci-fi books, then the algorithm of Bookface makes sure that you only see sci-fi stuff and stuff that will make you happy. Let's get to the business part of Bookface, or the other one it's based on. How does Bookface makes their money? Well, their money relies on two factors. Factor one is they know what you want to see and when you want to see it. And factor two is as you scroll down your wall and see posts by friends or posts you may like, they sandwich in some ads about stuff you may be interested in, or about stuff other people want people with your interest to see. And Bookface makes money for every ad you interact with, for every ad you see. So, in order to get more money, they have to keep you scrolling down their wall. And there is one way to do that. They have to give you stuff you're interested in, continually. And that creates a filter bubble. As the article says, filter bubbles reinforce political views or even make them more extreme and drive political polarization. This has nothing to do with our example directly. However, human brain is a more advanced monkey brain. It's impossible for the human brain to realize that what you see on screen is not the reality. It's just an idea of a reality, a model of reality. It's a virtual reality. The human brain understands that what is on the screen is real, not real based on your desires, but real. So, anytime something that contradicts this reality slips in, even because the algorithm did an oopsie and glitched and had it shown to you, or because somebody in your virtual environment points this out, or if reality shows that your virtual reality is false. Sometimes, when presented with a reality that contradicts what your monkey brain is trained to see and expects to see, and this filter bubble normalizes your perception. You expect to see what you like. Every time you see something different, you'll react more extremely to it. I think that what we call outrage culture nowadays, or echo chambers, or this rhetoric in political discussion all over social media, is about people, a small number of people used to viewing a certain reality, suddenly encountering something that contradicts them, that says that, hey, your reality is false. And these people are bound to feel shock or outrage, or be defensive and go out and accuse this, attack this contradiction. And if there's a group of them, since we have bubbles within social medium, when one person in this bubble encounters something and attacks it, the other people in the bubble see that and will positively reinforce this attack. They may attack too, and suddenly you have there's a lot of discussion about something. There's a post, let's say there's a post or a tweet that gains a lot of traction, a lot of comments, a lot of likes, a lot of discussion, and the algorithm is trained that, hey, if this post can make 10 people react so quickly and so hotly about that, then I should show it to 1,000 people, because the algorithm is made to make people react to posts and comment and create content, so they can sandwich more advertisements in there. So suddenly, when 10 people are attacking an idea, they feel outraged, they express their outrage, suddenly everybody can see that. It gets blown up, and that creates what we call cancel culture, outrage culture, Twitter mobs, social media outrage, all this stuff. And it has nothing to do with one specific political side, one specific demographic. Everybody does that, because this is how social media work. Okay, now we went off topic enough. Let's go to the diagrams because they're very important. Let's say that we have a very simple world where there are only two types of books published. There is only sci-fi books and romance books published, and people read either one or the other. And we have an author, and she's torn between writing a sci-fi book or writing a romance book. And let's suppose that this this author, goes to their local bookstore, which also has a cafe. She orders a ginormous cup of cappuccino, and she sits on a table by the registry, and she's sipping her coffee and watches what the clients buy. Do they buy sci-fi books or do they buy romance books? There may be a paper from her, and she draws a line for each book bought. And by the end of the day, she knows that 5 people, the blue dots are the sci-fi readers, bought sci-fi books, and 4 people bought romance books. Or like that. She has an idea what sells in the specific bookstore. That's what the paper calls random network. However, let's suppose this author goes to Bookface. And Bookface is a filter bubble. Let's suppose that she's over here. She's this person over here. She looks up what people read and sees 1, 2, 3 sci-fi readers and only 1 romance reader. That means that, hey, maybe I should write a science fiction book because more people are reading science fiction books than romance books. If she were down here, however, she would see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 romance readers and nobody reading science fiction. And that's a trap. That's the big trap of social media and decision making. Let's suppose that you just enter Bookface and you're over here and you see a post about Dune. You like it and you move towards sci-fi. Then you see a post about 50 Shades of Grey and you dislike it, or go and do something else because you want nothing to do with trust like that, and that moves you away from romance over here. So over time, if you consistently like science fiction books and consistently dislike romance books, you'll move somewhere over here. And every time you go into Bookface, you'll see lots and lots of people enthusiastically talking about science fiction, liking science fiction, and disliking romance. And you see very few people reading romance novels. So when it's time to write your book, you may think that, hey, every day I go to Bookface and I see 100 people enthusiastically reading sci-fi books and nobody's reading romance. So I'll write a sci-fi novel and I'll make a ton of money. And you do that and you sell 100 copies because there are only 100 people reading science fiction. And that's the people you see in Bookface. There may be 10,000 people reading romance who would buy your book, but you never saw them because you're in a filter bubble. That is the result of flawed perspective you get through social media. And I've seen people in publishing do this mistake, seeing 100 people in a social medium saying stuff and liking stuff, and they ignore the thousands of people who are not into the social medium and have totally different reading. And when the reality of the market hits them in the face, they react badly. They can react in denial, in accusation, in outrage, in wrath. They may get depressed, they may be crushed. Yes, it's very bad. Especially if the reality is that their sort of book, the book they wrote or the book they published, and they were certain that it was going to be a huge success because it got 100 likes on Bookface, sold 50 copies or something. That's very sad. And the article is about this third diagram, which I won't touch don't touch upon that much, because it's the information gerrymandering model, meaning that if you have a huge group having one opinion, you can insert the other group in between them and make this this opinion seem more popular. And this can be done in two ways: through advertising, using the social medium advertising features to project a reality. Say, if you want to promote more sci-fi reading in majorly romance novel reading category, you can have your sci-fi readers be more visible to romance people through ads, or you can have the algorithm of Bookface promote this stuff to groups that are not so interested, but through constant exposure they start to normalize this this behavior. And that's what you see. Well, actually, that reminds me of early Goodreads, where it was the early adopters of Goodreads were into sci-fi and young adult, because they were geeks and younger people. So if you went to Goodreads, sci-fi and young adult were huge, and everybody was reading that. If you were a normie and you got into Goodreads back in 2012 or 13, that's what you saw all the time. And that doesn't mean that it was super popular and people only read that, but the subset of people using Goodreads and people reading these two categories of books was very close. And that's how niches or subgenres or small groups can get a huge impact through social media, because they dominate the social media network and they make their opinions seem very popular, and maybe convert some of these people over here to their side. So when you're trying to gather information from your social medium of choice, it's very important to understand where you are in this medium. For instance, if you know you're over here, you should always keep in mind that there is this part of the social medium you never see. There is this fog of war. Let's say if you play strategy games, you have this area you don't know, and you can manipulate your experience in the medium to go from the filter bubble to a random network. Say if you're on Twitter and you're interested in reading, you can go to your search function. Actually, let me get on Twitter a little. You can follow me on Twitter, by the way. There is a link in the description, and yes, that's my Twitter. So let's say I go to Explore and do reading, and that's not, you can see the top posts and see what people are reading and what's interesting, or you can go to the recent and have a random example what people reading are talking about. And yes, the KC69 has nothing to do with books, but never mind that. Okay, never mind that. If you, for instance, if you go to Amazon.com and you want to see what sells, you can always look at the charts, because the charts are created based on what sells and not your recommendation, what you are more likely to buy. That's the recommendation feature of Amazon.com. And if you really want to do some research on Amazon.com and indie publishing and what book sells, I would recommend you give a read to Chris Fox's Right to Market, because there's a whole method on how to read the Amazon market and see what sells or doesn't sell. Additionally, you can also exploit filter bubbles for your own promotion. If you say you have a science fiction book, it's very important these people over here are in contact with you. Make sure you create contact that the people over here like. Make sure you come in contact with them. Make sure you advertise to them or you connect to them through the features of your medium. And these are the people who will be the early adopters. And because of the filter bubble, if they like your book, if they read your book and recommend this and write about this, the filter bubble will grow and be visible to other people around them. That's how social media ads and organic reach works. That's how you can exploit your the filter bubble effect to make your book seem popular, even though you only sold, I don't know, 10, 20, or 50 copies. It's important to know that you may be over here, or you may be over here, and you see people outside your, maybe the algorithm is glitching and you're in something appears more popular than it is, but there's no way to know, so you have to take your social medium with a grain of salt. It's also very important to realize the demographics of your social medium of choice. For instance, in Facebook, yes, I'll go for Facebook, not Bookface. Older people tend to hang around, and younger people are on Instagram. So if you're aiming for for older people or younger people, you should switch between Instagram and Facebook and choose what you want to have. And this kind of stuff. It's important to know that what you see being liked may be liked by a subset of the huge audience, and maybe they're not people you can approach because they may be all over the world and your book is only physical or in a language they don't speak, or they may only read physical and your book is on Amazon and as an ebook on Kindle and all this kind of stuff, really. So yes, I babbled enough. I hope you found some of the things I said interesting and useful. If you did, please press the like button. If you think some of your friends may be interested in to hear all those stuff I babbled about, then please share this video with them. If you want more bubbling videos like that, please subscribe to this channel. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.